Arifureta, From Commonplace to World's Strongest tells the story of a student named Hajime Nagumo who is suddenly summoned to another world, and asked to become a hero who fights monsters and demons. Hajime was summoned along with all of his classmates and teacher. But it seems that the task of being a hero who fights monsters and demons is not very suitable for Hajime, who is a weak child. Even in the real world, he is often bullied by his friends. In addition, Hajime got a job as a synergist, who was only endowed with the transmute skill, which allows him to control, transform, and manipulate any kind of ores, minerals or materials in any way or shape the user desires. Thus, Hajime can be said to be not very useful in battle and only become a burden on the team. However, even though he is weak and not very useful, there is one girl in her class named Kaori who always helps Hajime and seems to have feelings for him. Unfortunately, because of Hajime's closeness with Kaori, who is known as one of the prettiest girls in his class, Hajime is hated even more by his classmates, and one of the people who hate Hajime the most is Hiyama. When the heroes were on a mission in a dangerous labyrinth, Hiyama threw a tantrum which caused them all to be teleported to a dungeon inhabited by a powerful monster, Behemoth. Even though they all tried to unite their strength to attack and defeat the Behemoth, that was not enough, so most of them were forced to run away, while Hajime tried hard to block the Behemoth's movements with his transmute ability. When everyone had gotten away, they were supposed to gather and unite their forces to attack the Behemoth. Apparently, this was all a ruse so they could all be saved by sacrificing Hajime, who they thought was not very useful in battle. Amidst the battle, it turned out that one of Hajime's friends had aimed a magic attack at Hajime on purpose, which in the end caused Hajime to fall into the abyss with the Behemoth. In the abyss of the Orcus labyrinth, there were many powerful monsters that he had never seen before. Hajime's fate became even worse when he encountered an extremely powerful beast at the venue, which caused his left arm to be cut off and eaten by the monster. In the midst of his panic and despair, Hajime just realized that the previous attack was deliberately aimed at him with the intention to kill and erase his existence. Realizing this, Hajime vowed to take revenge on the traitors using his own strength. Having steeled himself for revenge, the first thing Hajime had to do was survive amidst his despair. In order to survive, Hajime tried to use his transmute ability to lure the monster into its hideout. After succeeding, Hajime ate the monster's flesh raw to survive. But Hajime never expected that by eating the monster's meat, his body and magic power would change so drastically. Even though his hair suddenly turned white, Hajime gained special powers according to the monsters he ate. Knowing these advantages, Hajime decided to hunt the monsters there to eat and get more skills. Apart from that, Hajime also gathered various materials needed and then created a gun using his transmute ability. With his new weapon, Hajime intends to hunt down the monster that has eaten his left arm. Eventually, he managed to defeat the giant monster single-handedly thanks to his increased status and the various new abilities he has acquired. After eating the monsters and getting various upgrades in status and abilities, Hajime decided to find a way out of the labyrinth. Instead of returning to the upper floors, Hajime chose to descend even further to the lower floors to become stronger so he could avenge those who had betrayed him. Elsewhere, Kaori, who had been unconscious for 5 days since the incident, finally regained consciousness and met her best friend named Shizuku. Kaori felt sad and still couldn't believe that Hajime didn't survive the labyrinth, while Shizuku tried to strengthen Kaori's heart, which seemed to have just realized her love for Hajime. Meanwhile, Hajime himself continues to struggle to survive in the labyrinth, until in the end, he finds a mysterious door guarded by 2 large monsters. Unexpectedly, Hajime's abilities had progressed so much that he was able to defeat the 2 monsters quite easily and then retrieve the keys from their corpses. Behind the door, Hajime found a young girl imprisoned in a crystal. Hajime thought that the girl might be a monster that was deliberately sealed for various reasons and possibilities. But then the woman admitted that she was an immortal vampire who was sealed because she was betrayed by people who were afraid of her strength. Because of her immortal nature, these people couldn't kill her, so they then sealed her away. Hajime, who at first didn't want anything to do with her, became sympathetic because the fate of the woman was similar to his, so in the end, Hajime released the seal that bound the woman. Deciding to leave her old name behind, the girl asked Hajime to give her a new name, so Hajime gave her the name Yue for the moon, as her golden hair reminded him of moonlight. Then Hajime continued on his way while carrying Yue on his back. They also work hand in hand to defeat the monsters in the labyrinth. Since she hasn't fought in a long time, Yue becomes weak easily after using her magic abilities, so Yue has to eat frequently to restore her strength. Because Yue was a vampire, What she ate was Hajime's blood, which she found delicious. While eating the flesh of Hajime, Yue explained that all vampires were exterminated 300 years ago, making her the last vampire. In addition, Yue also explained that this labyrinth was created by mavericks, powerful magic users who tried to defeat God but failed, so they each built a labyrinth as a refuge from God's revenge. Thus, the mavericks may still be alive on the deepest floor. Long story short, after a few days had passed, Hajime and Yue arrived at the end of the labyrinth and saw a very large door. Upon entering the room, they also met a 6-headed dragon boss, each head of which can cast different magic. Hajime and Yue worked together to defeat the boss, which at first went smoothly. Things got worse when one of the dragon heads turned out to have the ability to regenerate. Yue is nearly eaten by one of the heads, which triggers hypnosis on Yue, so Hajime then saves her and then kisses her to bring Yue back to consciousness. Yue, whose spirit had been restored after being kissed by Hajime, then immediately cast her strongest magic technique. On the other hand, Hajime also used his newest railgun weapon, so the combination of their two strongest attacks managed to defeat the dragon. Before they could relax, the 7th head suddenly appeared and attacked Yue with an extremely powerful attack. In this situation, Hajime reflexively moved to protect Yue, costing himself a direct hit from the dragon, which caused him to be seriously injured and his weapon destroyed. Yue immediately panicked and tried to heal Hajime by channeling healing potions through her lips. After dodging various enemy attacks and going through various difficulties, in the end, Yue's attempt was successful, where Hajime, who just woke up, then returned to work with Yue, so in the end they succeeded in defeating the dragon monster. After that, Hajime awakens in bed with Yue, having lost his right eye due to his previous battle, and learns that they are in the Maverick's home. While exploring the room there, they found the skeleton of the Maverick before a magic circle. When Hajime touched the magic circle, a holographic message appeared in front of him from someone claiming to be a Maverick by the name of Oscar Orcus, who was the creator of the labyrinth. As a reward for clearing the labyrinth, Hajime would be given the power and everything that resided in this place. After that, Hajime felt excruciating pain in his body and head due to the immense pressure generated by Oscar's memory that entered his head. Not only that, Hajime suddenly became knowledgeable about Oscar's ancient creation magic, allowing him to add magical properties to transmuted objects to create artifacts. After this, Hajime and Yue decided to stay there for a while to study everything they could find, as well as train for the enemies they will face in the future. Elsewhere, it is shown that Hajime's classmates are back on an expedition into the labyrinth to find Hajime's whereabouts. Unlike before, this time they seem to have gotten stronger, as they managed to defeat the behemoth they believed had killed Hajime. On the other hand, after 2 months had passed, Hajime had made the best use of Oscar's treasures, fitting himself with an advanced prosthetic arm and a piece of magical jewelry to replace his eye. Hajime has decided to return to the surface, where he wants to conquer all the labyrinths for their ancient magics. But before that, Hajime warned Yue that they would likely be hated and despised by all beings for their current plans and power, but Yue was undaunted as long as Hajime was by her side. Then when they arrived at the surface, Hajime and Yue were surprised by the appearance of a bunny girl who had been waiting for them for a long time. The bunny girl introduced herself as Shia Halia, daughter of the head of the Rabbitman tribe. Apparently, Shia had the power to see the future, and it was with that power that she predicted Hajime's arrival at the scene. Shia asked for Hajime's help to save her tribe from being disturbed by evil monsters, even seducing Hajime with her seductive body so that Hajime would help her. Seeing that, the jealous Yue flew into a rage, summoning her strength to silence Shia. Long story short, Hajime agreed to help Shia, in exchange for Shia being their guide on a journey to a great tree contained in Oscar's library. Arriving at the tribe's forest, Hajime easily killed some of the savage monsters there, using Shia as bait. Hajime also trained them so they could live independently in the forest and be able to deal with the threat of other monsters later, turning them into tough monster killers. Shia then led them to the great tree which Hajime believed was the next labyrinth. But when they got there, it was closed, so Hajime realized that it might open after they cleared another labyrinth. Therefore, after completing his task, Hajime also plans to continue his journey, while the rabbit men decide to continue training and guard the tree until Hajime returns. Not only that, but Shia also seemed to have fallen in love with Hajime and didn't want to part with him, so Hajime, and also Yue, who seemed to still be jealous of Shia, finally invited Shia to join them on their journey. Halfway through, Shia stumbled upon a gateway to a new labyrinth. They also decided to go there, hoping to find ancient magic to return Hajime to his original world. After facing many traps and obstacles that don't make sense, they arrive at the lowest floor where they are confronted by a boss in the form of a robot that is directly controlled by a maverick named Milady. After a long battle, they manage to defeat the boss by cracking her crystal heart. Upon their conquest of the dungeon, Milady gave her ring to Hajime and gave Yue an ancient gravity magic. With Hajime's great action in conquering the labyrinth, their reputation began to be heard among the wider community. Therefore, they were then invited directly by the Adventurers Guild leader for help, where they were asked to find a group of adventurers who mysteriously disappeared in the northern mountains, and among these groups, there were noble families who had to be saved. Hajime had initially accepted the offer due to the large rewards. But when he got there, he never thought that he would be reunited with his classmates, where his teacher named Aiko noticed Hajime's presence after Shia accidentally called Hajime's name in front of her. When Aiko interrogated him about what really happened to him, Hajime was reluctant to explain it, even making his other classmates surprised by the change in Hajime's attitude, which had now become very cold and unforgiving. At night, Hajime came to Aiko alone to tell her about the betrayal he went through, reminding Aiko about the presence of traitors among them. Hajime also told Aiko that he would explore the labyrinth to find a way for them all to return to their original worlds. The next morning, when Hajime was going to his destination, suddenly Aiko and his other friends came to help Hajime look for the missing adventurer group. Hajime, who used to be a loser and a burden, started to think that his friends would only be a hindrance to him. After Aiko forced him, Hajime gave up and brought them all along with him, driving the car he created with his unique skill. Arriving at the location, Hajime used transmuted drones connected to his right eye, so that in the end they managed to find the location of the noble's son named Will. But when they were about to leave the place, a black dragon monster attacked them. The dragon is a monster known to have killed all of Will's friends. But with his super cool new weapon, Hajime managed to subdue the dragon with help from Yue and Shia. It's just that the dragon has armor that is very difficult to penetrate, thus forcing Hajime to use the pile bunker. But rather than penetrate the armor, Hajime was more interested in torturing the dragon, where he sadistically stuck a long iron into the only area that was not covered by armor, the anus. Oddly enough, the resulting pain caused the dragon to groan in pleasure, revealing that she was a female dragonborn capable of taking human form. After being tortured long enough and Hajime lets go of the stake, the dragon transforms into a young woman named Tio Clarus, a shameless masochist who admits that she enjoys the stake. Tio explained that she had previously been controlled by a black-robed magician man, and also informed them that the mysterious man had also mobilized 60,000 monsters to attack the city. But at that time Hajime didn't care at all and only focused on completing his mission of returning Will to the Adventurers Guild. The next day, Aiko asked Hajime to rethink his decision to help the city from the attack. With her plea, Hajime agreed to Aiko's request. He then helped the townspeople to prepare for the monsters, by building forts and stockpiling weapons. Meanwhile, at night, Tio the horny dragon came to Hajime and asked him to join Hajime's group. But Hajime rebuffed her curtly and harshly, which only increased Tio's passion even more. Finally, their battle against the monster army drew near. Before going to war, Hajime made a little speech that basically said that this was all possible thanks to the grace of Aiko, the goddess of plenty, and the citizens should be grateful to her, causing the people's spirits to burn even more. Then, when the monster army of 60,000 arrived, Hajime, Yue, Shia, and Tio immediately bombarded them with various weapons and magical attacks. Without any significant difficulty, they succeeded in eradicating the monster army. Hajime even managed to catch the black-robed man who was the mastermind behind all of these attacks. As it turns out, the mysterious man is one of Aiko's students named Shimizu, who admits that he has allied himself with the devil because he wants to become stronger, by making Aiko a sacrifice for Shimizu's agreement with the devil. When Aiko and the others were off guard, Shimizu immediately took Aiko hostage and threatened her with a poisoned needle. As Shia was trying to save her, a demon dragon attacked them from behind, which caused Aiko, Shia, and Shimizu to be seriously injured. Hajime immediately healed the girls but refused to heal Shimizu, instead killing him in front of Aiko. Aiko was angry because Hajime had killed one of her students without a second thought, but finally, Aiko realized that what Hajime was doing was for the sake of protecting himself. Moreover, he did it so that Aiko would not feel guilty and burdened over Shimizu's death. After saving the town, Hajime and company returned to the Adventurers Guild to escort Will home. The next day, Hajime relaxed a bit and strolled through town with Shia. But halfway through, Hajime suddenly felt a weak presence. Hajime immediately rushed over to where the elves were, and there he found a merfolk girl, who Shia thought was a race that the kingdom highly protected. The girl named Miu told Hajime that she was kidnapped by a syndicate of slave organizations. Hajime handed her over to the local police for protection, but not long after that, the police station was attacked by the syndicate, and Miu was kidnapped again. In the end, Hajime decided to destroy the syndicate, so he and his party started looking for and destroying the syndicate's hideouts that were scattered in the city. In the end, they managed to save Miu, who then joined Hajime's group, and uniquely called Hajime by the nickname Papa. Despite his unease, Hajime takes to parenting Miu quite well. After that, Hajime and company returned to where he and the other heroes were summoned. When Hajime visited the Adventurers Guild there, he accidentally ran into one of his classmates who seemed to be in trouble. After noticing Hajime's change that had become very strong, he asked Hajime to help their other friends who were in the labyrinth. As it turned out, another classmate of theirs had made it to the 90th floor of the labyrinth and faced off against invincible demons and monsters. These demons and monsters had even managed to defeat the kingdom's strongest commander. At first, Hajime refused the request, because basically, he didn't think of them as friends anymore. But after getting input and encouragement from Yue, Shia, Tio, and Miu, Hajime finally agreed to the request. When things got worse for the hero group where they were badly cornered, Hajime entered the labyrinth by creating a shortcut using his pile bunker to blast through the upper floors. Everyone was really surprised after knowing that the person who had saved them was Hajime, especially after knowing the changes in Hajime, who had now become very strong. After that, Hajime had a one-on-one battle with the demon called Catalia, while Shia and Yue protected the hero group from the small monsters that attacked them, and Tio protected Miu in her arms. Here, there was one person who didn't like Hajime's presence, namely Hiyama, one of Hajime's classmates who turned out to be the traitor who pushed Hajime into the abyss before. But it seemed Yue knew about Hiyama's evil intentions and threatened him not to do anything stupid if he still wanted to survive. Without much resistance, Hajime was able to defeat Catalia and eradicate her entire army of monsters, eventually mercilessly killing her, and in this way, the hero group was saved. After everything was over, Kaori cried and hugged Hajime because she was happy to see Hajime again. This made Shia and Yue jealous, which even made their killing aura overflow. On the way back, Hajime made it clear that he no longer considered them friends, and would without hesitation kill anyone who got in his way, even if it was his classmate. Even his classmates thought that Hajime had changed, but not Kaori. She finally mustered her feelings of love for Hajime and asked Hajime to join his group. However, he blatantly rejected Kaori, saying that he already had a partner and was in love with Yue. Unexpectedly, Yue became the one who invited Kaori to go and join them, so there was no reason for Hajime to reject or deny that. In the end, Hajime's group grew even more with Kaori's presence. Thus, Hajime and his party continued their adventure to find a way back to the original world.